Hi, very good morning to all, and welcome to this session for situational based questions in paper two. We have come up with a unique opportunity for the patent agent aspirants with a contest actually based on some of these questions that I'll be sharing today. Welcome for this session, and I hope your preparation for patent agent exam is going well actually, and this session would also be useful for you just to understand where are you standing, especially in terms of paper two situational based kind of questions. If we look at the I can actually trifurcate the all the participants or students who are appearing for patent digit exam into three separate types of students actually. First, who actually started the preparation long back, or maybe in the month of December when the notification for the patent agent examination came. The second type of students who have already finished the entire syllabus at least once, and the third type of students who are at a very early stage actually. My today's session is not for those who are at early stage of preparation. If you have finished at least once with the patent act, or if you are halfway, let's say, in terms of your preparation for the patent digit exam, then this session is meant for you. This session herein, as I said, I have got few things which are related to the paper two part one. Basically, I'm not going to speak much on the drafting part, but the situational type questions that are asked, or what we also call as kind of hypothetical case studies, I would say. Right now, let me just share my screen to start with. Uh, okay, so we are going to discuss about the preparation of paper two. I also I have got two separate parts for this particular entire webinar, I would say. In one part, I'm giving you some hints, especially with respect to the question paper. Question paper two, part one, and in the second, alternatively, I'll be giving you some hypothetical questions related to COVID-19 actually. Just a disclaimer before I actually start with the session. All the questions are hypothetical. Any resemblance to any living or dead is purely coincidence, basically. Also, try to solve the questions only if you have finished the syllabus at least once, or you have actually covered that particular part of your studies, which I would call because patent act is so big actually, from the patentability definitions to the licensing part. There are so many things actually involved into patent act. You may not have covered every aspect of the patent act or rules or manual. So don't worry if you feel there are some questions which you really didn't know actually. But then just analyze where are you standing based on this. As I said, everything is hypothetical. I'm just coming up with some kind of I would say hints for or preparation for the I would say the situational based questions, because during the class generally what happens is paper one is covered, the sections and everything, the conceptual. Paper two practice is done. We are drafting claims, abstract, title, how to write that. But then when it comes to the situational questions, actually, there is nothing as such, I would say, which would be something which would give you an idea how to prepare this. And this, the intent of this is exactly the same. Also, I have come up with some questions, 8 questions rather, I would say, and these 8 questions are the ones which are hypothetical, COVID-19 situation based. You can submit your answers before 19th March 22, and you can submit in the Word format along with your name, technical qualification, and affiliation to pharma@patlex.in. And any top 5 correct answers would receive free access to our video lectures, ebook, and the mock test actually that we are actually currently conducting. Now, so this is how. Why COVID-19 related questions actually? That is something someone asked me a day before yesterday. Why COVID-19 only and not anything else? Since 2000 to 2018, if you look at the patent agent exam paper to situational based questions, they are generally related to current happenings that have happened since last patent agent exam. And if you look at 2018 exam and today, the major difference is the COVID-19. And honestly, during COVID time, as a practitioner, patent practitioner, we also face some issues, and I have tried to incorporate those issues right here in the this particular, I would say, session or webinar as a question base. Now, to start with, as I said, alternatively, I have got one question and then one, I would say, some tips or some analysis of the paper 2, basically situation based question. We're just speaking about paper 2 part 1. So one question hypothetical and one. So those who want to enter in the contest, they have to focus more on the questions, read those questions, send your answers in the Word format actually, and before 19th March, and you would be eligible for these 3 things actually that I have mentioned here. To start with the first questions, I'm not going to discuss the answers here, but in the meantime, if there are any questions for the second part, I would be more than happy to answer those questions specifically, because it's just not only answering the questions, but also analyzing them is also very important. Now, the first question that I have is Dr. Bhaskar Banerjee is a medical practitioner. He realizes that a drug named Jadoo is used for the treatment of lymphosarcoma of the intestine. And this drug has a potential for the purpose of treating COVID-19. Now, he develops a new product to be delivered via nasal route as a spray, let's say, nasal spray for Jadoo. Jadoo is the drug. The product contains, Jadoo is a drug actually. It's not something which I'm using as a TM. The product contains Jadoo in 15 to 25% weight by volume, water 60 to 80% weight by volume, stabilizer 1 to 2% weight by volume, and a buffer which is 5 to 6% weight by volume. Dr. Bhaskar approaches you for getting patent on use of Jadoo for COVID-19 treatment. Advise him with the option for same in India, USA, and Europe, along with example of claims considering the invention is novel and non-obvious. So this is the question that you have got. I would say for 10 marks. If you know the answer, you can prepare a proper answer, because eventually it's just not about writing, knowing the answer. It is also important about how to write the answer. And if you can write the answer herein for this particular question, you can, I would suggest you to write on a paper by pen, scan it and send, rather than preparing a Word file. Reason being, that way you would practice writing actually. Most of us have actually forgot to how to write basically. If we have to write for 3-4 hours, it's really very difficult. Yes, believe me, when I appeared for the exam, after a long time, not for the patent agent, some other exam, I had lost that practice and it was very difficult. This may be something which may actually आपका speed कम हो जाएगा in the exam basically, especially in the paper 2, because it's a lot of writing. In paper 1, you won't face this issue actually. So this is your first question. Write down on a paper with a pen, scan it and send across to me on the email address that I have been mentioned. This question one. As I said, alternatively, I'll be giving you some fact check about paper two. So my analysis of all the papers since 2000 to 2018, I may be biased, I may be wrong, but what I have realized is situational questions or patent drafts are rarely repeated. These questions or drafts are rarely repeated. There may be hardly, I would say, 2 or 3 instances wherein these questions have been repeated. That doesn't mean those can't get repeated basically. But so referring so understanding of the concept or the core, I would say, the patent concept would be something which is very essential, and accordingly you will have to write the answer for the same. Second thing is in these kind of questions, many a times it is essential to write down the forms, fees, sections, as well as rules actually, and the timelines as well. Now, in this kind of situation, the question that I had about Bhaskar Banerjee, in this case, it is very essential that you have to write whatever is applicable. Remember, sometimes it is very specifically mentioned what all is required. For example, the fees part, the forms part, the rules part, the section part is actually mentioned there. Even in the second part, it is at times mentioned how many claims you have to draft, whether you have to redraw the drawing or not. So read it carefully and accordingly then answer. But if you know the form, fees, sections, rules, timelines with respect to that question, then try to answer them actually. And there's a specific way to write the answer to situational questions. And these situational questions need to be written in that specific format as well. Since day one, I've been getting a lot of inquiries about how to write basically, and how it has to be put in the answer sheet basically. I think we already have a book on this, and I think you can all refer to that book. In my very first session in the month of December as well, I had recommended this book actually, and I would recommend this book again for if you really want to go through situational questions and their answers actually with respect to how to write basically. So these are answers for all the previous year's question, and you can actually refer to this book on patent agent exam preparation by Dr. Sheetal Chopra. It's the updated version. If you see, if you get the updated version through Amazon, it would be really helpful for you for the situational based questions actually. Now, this is a fact check basically as far as the paper 2 is concerned. As in the situational questions, you need to write the forms, the fees, the sections, rules, timelines, and how to write. You can refer to the book. There would be a lot of cases, a lot of answers, different answer to let you know how to write, because it's just not about knowing the concept. It is also about how to write. That is most important thing in the exam. Okay. Now let me come back to the second question, but before that, I would have a question here from Rashmita Sahu, whether questions will be sent to email. Let me just check what can be done as we would try to send it, but then if you are not registered for the webinar, we may not have your email address, Rashmita. So maybe you can take a screenshot of this video basically and then take the questions accordingly. Okay. Let me go to the second question now. Now the second question for you as a part of the contest is Dr. Alok is a scientist working in a research lab for electronics instruments. He develops unique sensor which can detect the quality of batteries used in the automobile industry. He files a provisional patent on 15th March 2020 in India. The lockdown forces him to stop his research, and the project is not completed within stipulated time to file the PCT. On 18th April 2020, Dr. Alok approaches you and asks whether he can still file a PCT application based on the priority Indian application, provisional application that he has filed. Advise him on whether the PCT can be filed and the further actions required therein with respect to the PCT filing. So here, and I think this was a common problem many of the scientists faced actually during the lockdown. Your research not getting completed basically due to lockdown, and your deadlines are approaching, you're not able to finish your project. How are you going to deal that? And is it possible to file a PCT in this particular case? And if, then how? If yes, then how? If not, then what's the way out actually for that? This, in fact, during the lockdown, when I spoke to some of the scientists actually, during this lockdown period, in many cases, so in especially in the our life sciences industry, the pharma and biotech, there are many research projects which are long projects actually. So, for example, the preclinical animal studies and all, they were all halted actually during the first lockdown or the second lockdown, so forth. Then in that case, how have they actually taken care of so research is first part, the IP filing point of view, how have they actually taken care of that? That is something which you need to understand here. This is my second question for all of you. Now I got some again fact check for paper two, wherein if you think Patent Act related to so we know Patent Act generally is about the Patent Office, the Indian Patent Office, which is part of Ministry of Commerce and Industries actually. But then there have been a lot of questions actually, which are, I would say, which are thinking beyond the patent authorities or the patent office basically. What are those authorities actually? If you must know these authorities, what is the function? How are they relevant, or how are they directly connected with the patent office actually? That is also something which is very essential for you to understand. And what are these authorities? National Biodiversity Authority, NBA, based in Chennai, which is applicable for all those inventions wherein you use at least one of the I would say at least one of uh, uh, the part of the patent application or the claim which is from the natural resources. It can be a herb, it can be a mineral, it can be it can also be I would say it can also be the any natural ingredient basically. I'm extremely sorry, I got a question here. Yeah, I'm sorry, I think I made a blunder here. Thank you so much for letting me know this. This is 2021 actually, not 2020. And I think I have got Divya. Thank you, Divya, for mentioning this. So in this earlier case, it was 2020. Yeah. So National Biodiversity Authority. Second is Biological Diversity, Diversity Act actually for the protection of microorganisms. The third one is a competition law. Yes, there is something which is directly connected to I would say competition law in the Indian Patent Act. You need to know that actually how is Competition Act and IP, these are two separate things, but when are they connected basically? And there was a question specifically asked in last exam, I believe, and which is something which you need to know actually, right? Yeah. So because these are the things traditionally everyone would go for the Indian Patent Office, the Act rules and MPP, but these things are also really essential. Fourth one, of course, very common, PCT, and consistently in last 2 years, we have questions on Startup India. So Startup India questions are something, again, something which is like, in last 2 years, 16 and 18 में ये पूछा गया है. You can go through the Startup India government website actually. Like, just to know various aspects related to Startup India scheme actually, because startups have got many things that are directly connected to the patents. And like, for example, there are a lot of schemes actually by the patent office which are specific for startups which are registered with the DPIIT now. So that you need to understand. I've got a third question here. Ms. Vedehi is a young entrepreneur in Tamil Nadu. Just a request to everyone. I have tried to draft these questions on my own. I may be biased. If you feel like there is any mistake in the question itself, do let me know, because in patent agent exam, you may not get any mistake basically, but as a human, I may have some errors. So as Divya mentioned in the earlier question, I think that's my request to everyone. Yeah, now. So the third question, Ms. Vedehi is a young entrepreneur in Tamil Nadu. In the first wave of lockdown, sitting at home, she reads an article on internet about a diagnostic kit and decides to develop the same. Now there is another scientist, Dr. Sharma, the author of the article, holds a patent for diagnostic kit in India actually. Okay. Now the patent is granted 3 years back, not commercialized in India. Ms. Vadehi approaches you after knowing about the patent. She seeks your help for advising her on steps to file the compulsory licensing at the Indian Patent Office. Advise her on various steps to be taken to seek CL, discuss the various provisions of Section 84(1) in this regard. Last week, if you had joined for our session, there was a compulsory licensing case discussed and 84(1) ke subsections were discussed in detail. You need to do that here. Now, in the second wave, Vadehi wishes to export this kit to Sweden, as there is a huge demand. Now, can she export the diagnostic kit product to Sweden? If yes, how? If no, why not? Explain it considering two separate situations wherein there exists the patent for the diagnostic kit in Sweden, and in another situation there is no patent for the diagnostic kit in the Sweden. So there is a young entrepreneur, Miss Vadehi. She wants to develop a diagnostic kit manufacturer. She reads that article, but it is patented since 3 years. It's not commercialized in India. Basically, she wants to file a compulsory license. You have to discuss various provisions now, as well as in the second wave when she wants to export it to Sweden. Basically, can she export? If yes, how? If no, why not? And you have to consider those two separate situations here. There exists a patent for the kit in Sweden, and there is no patent for the diagnostic kit in Sweden, actually. So this is my question number 3 for all of you, those who are looking forward to take part in this contest or want to check their knowledge or check their, I would say, understanding of the domain, assess yourself. I have one request to everyone, while going through these mock tests or these kind of questions, answering these kind of questions, generally, like, try to be more unbiased, because scoring here may not be going to give you a big brownie points, but definitely, like, if you score less here, I would say you would prepare better, and then probably in the patent actual exam you may be in a position to score much better actually. So that's my question number 3. i got a I got a request here from Bhavna. Please show last slide having changed the date. Need to take screenshot. I'll be sharing all these. I'll be showing you all these questions at the end for sure. You can take the screenshots, as well as we would be sharing all the questions through LinkedIn of Patlex Business Solutions. There is a LinkedIn page for Patlex Business Solutions. There is an Instagram page for Pharma Literati. Through these questions would be shared as a PDF or image as well. But if you require, you can take a screenshot as well. Now that's my question number 3 for all of you. Coming back to the fact check, there have been a lot of instances, as I mentioned, recent changes are always in focus for paper 2 and Viva Voce, especially those happened since last examination, last patent examination. Try to focus on them. And what are those recent changes that have happened? I think one I had already discussed, IPAB dissolution and the High Court Special Division creation, basically. Then there were patent draft rules in 19. In 20, there were patent draft rules with respect to Form 27. Patent draft rules 2020, which was with respect to difference in the fees. Patent amendment rules 2021 with respect to educational institutions, which are applied since September 2021. Patent prosecution highways. And there was also a kind of, I would say, a report by a parliamentary standing committee on the IP regime. And there was one specific pointer which was highlighted, which was about artificial intelligence and inventorship. Now, what do you mean by this? Actually, there was one case globally wherein the machine was allowed to be an inventor. And of course, as of now, Indian Patent Act doesn't allow it. I believe so. But then there was some discussion with respect to that artificial intelligence and inventorship in this. So you can just go through it. You can check actually, if there is anything that is worth, which can be part of this actually. So the especially in the situation-based questions, many a times you are asked direct questions as well. So as I said, startup related activities 2016 and 18, both times have been actually asked. So it is very essential, go for the recent changes in which are in focus basically for paper 2, as well as this would really help you while preparing for Viva Voce as well. Coming back to the 4th question. Monica is an European entrepreneur who holds several patents related to diagnostic kits and sanitizers in India. She wants to license these technologies for Indian market to Mr. Hitesh, as there is sudden demand in the Indian market for diagnostic kits and sanitizer products due to the COVID pandemic, basically. However, there is a catch here. She is willing to license all the technologies to a single party. But Mr. Hitesh is willing to manufacture only diagnostic kits and not sanitizer, as it is not something which is profitable to him. Now both of them approach you for for advice in this particular situation. Advise Mr. Hitesh and Monica with the relevant section number as per the Indian Patent Act. Now, So there is an entrepreneur who has got two technologies, diagnostic kits and sanitizer, and both these technologies need to be licensed out to Mr. Hitesh, who is in the Indian market. But then the difference, Monica, who is European, uh, she wants to give the both the technologies to a single party. Hitesh, who is an Indian, he just want to manufacture diagnostic kits. Now, how would you resolve this? They both of them approach you actually. Now, also, because you would always see that in the situational based questions, you would be having 2 or 3 sub questions. Remember, each of the sub question carries some weightage to it. If it is as simple as yes or no, still you will have to answer it. Okay. If you don't specifically answer it, there may be some mark deducted. Second sub question, what factors should be considered while licensing the technology or technologies? If it's 1, if it's 2, what factors should be considered? What clauses should be avoided in the agreement to avoid further legal complications? This is my fourth question to all of you who want to check their preparation for the patent agent exam paper 2 situation based questions. As well as I said, don't get panic, don't worry if you don't know these answers to any of these, because you may not have gone through the entire patent act actually. If you have finished with the syllabus, if you have read it once, then for sure there may be some hints that you're getting out of this. Now, the another fact check, case studies. I think we discussed one case study last week, which was about compulsory licensing. But then there have been, I would say, questions in situation-based, kind of scenarios, wherein you have got situations hypothetically created which have already happened. As in last 2-3 years, may whatever number of cases that have happened actually, based on that they are trying to frame the questions. Like few of these case studies that you can focus. See, I'm a pharma guy, always kind of, I would say, biased on pharma side. So but then I have tried to include some of these cases which are from pharma side, which I'm aware actually. But then you can check some of these cases from your technology as well. Remember that, there are a lot of, so why pharma or life sciences? There is a reason for that actually. And the reason is that, if you look at the patent litigation part, like the number wise, at least the pharma litigations are quite high. And that may be one of the reasons that these, the case studies that are discussed are always about the, many times are about the pharma side. Now, some of the case studies, we had, of course, this one covered, Bayer versus Natco, compulsory licensing. The Novartis versus Union of India, Section 3D, it's been already asked actually. There was a suo motu hearing on vaccine price equity by Supreme Court, which was about Section 92 and 100 of the Indian Patent Act. Just check what this case is actually. And see, I'll tell you, these case studies are very simple. They are not that difficult actually. When you read any case study, that point of time, in fact, I would recommend you to go through the news articles related to the case study, rather than at times going through the broad case study, which may be a big document actually. Because while preparing for the patent agent exam, it is also essential that, because the syllabus is so vast, that if the number of pages are really very high, you won't actually go through the case study. So go through the, I would say, some kind of news articles related to these cases. There is also a case on Merck versus SM. These are last 2 years cases, basically. With respect to Section 107A, Merck versus SMS Pharmaceuticals. Monsanto versus Competition Commission of India, interesting case, patent law and competition connected. Now, so that's about my, I would say, some of the fact check for paper 2 that I have got based on my understanding, my knowledge, and when I actually browsed all these question papers. I have question 5 for you. Hypothetical case again. Mr. Vijay, based in Mumbai, wanted to send flowers and gift to his friend based in Delhi on 18th Feb 2022. The friend has just recovered from COVID-19. Now he orders flowers and a very nice gift from an e-commerce website. The gift is delivered from Jaipur factory actually. On 19th of February 2022, Mr. Vijay realizes that the gift sent to his friend is infringing an existing patent, and the company manufacturing the same has been served the notice of infringement. The e-commerce website also stopped the selling the infringing product immediately. Mr. Vijay is worried as he was the last customer who sent the infringing product. Mr. Vijay approaches you for advice if he is sending a gift of a product which is infringing is a right action or not. Explain this with relevant section numbers of the Indian Patent Act. So this is a scenario wherein someone sends flowers and gift to a friend, and next day that person realizes that the gift that was sent is infringing actually, right? And the manufacturing, the company manufacturing has been served the notice of infringement. The e-commerce website stops selling the product immediately, and now the last customer, Mr. Vijay, is a bit worried whether the sending the gift is a right action or not. Explain this with relevant section numbers of Indian Patent Act actually. Okay. Now that's my question 5, hypothetical question for you. Also, when we think of litigation, so again coming back to the fact check for people too. Also, when we think of litigation in the context of infringement, so generally when we speak of litigation, those who read Patent Act, they are very much aware of the concepts like I would say opposition, pre-grant, post-grant, revocation. But when it comes to the infringement part, there are a lot of, I would say, misconceptions about how to determine infringement. And that's where I think you need to a bit be very clear about your, I would say, ideas or concept. So herein you need to understand the concepts of infringement, non-infringement actually. What does it mean by that? How is it evaluated? There may be very simple basic rules to evaluate infringement or non-infringement. Next is jurisdiction. There have been questions about jurisdictions, especially in the Viva as well. Burden of proof, there is a concept called burden of proof. So for example, if I file a lawsuit against an infringing party, I'm a patent holder basically, then is it me who has to show that his product, the other party's product is infringing, or the other party has to show that the product is not infringing basically? That's what is called as a burden of proof basically. You need to be very clear, and there are specific sections in the Indian Patent Act which speak about burden of proof. Very essential to understand that. And there may be, as I said, litigation in the context of infringement has been asked many a times in the situation-based question. The concepts like temporary and permanent injunction, just Google it, and those who have finished knows the concept of injunction basically, right? So what you can do is you can very easily, I would say, understand these concepts which are very essential that have been asked in the paper to situation-based. Question 6 for all of you now, which is again a hypothetical question. Yash is a school child who develops an e-learning software which is helpful for online classes, examination, and certificate generation. Yash has an elder sister who is doing her BTech, and actually she helps him to develop a hardware which is helpful for the execution of the software. Both the kids are very happy to know that the invention is not novel and not obvious. So that is, there is a novelty and non-obvious. They have worked for the project under the guidance of their mom, who is a scientist in chemistry department. She has contributed to the idea and execution as well. Now, Yash, his sister, and mom approach you for patent filing. Now, advise them on the patentability of the invention first, their eligibility for filing a patent, steps to be taken to file the patent, and the relevant cost for filing the same. They are also specifically concerned about two things and need your advice on that. First, Mr. Yash is a school child and does not possess any degree. He's just 10 years old. Can he be an inventor? Second, his mom is MSc in chemistry and is not from a software industry basically. Can she be an inventor for an invention which is for I would say this kind of invention? Honestly, during last 2-3 years, we have got a lot of questions with respect to the software part, web coding basically during the lockdown, and especially coming from the edutech domain. Okay, so in that edutech domain, we have got a lot of questions, people asking for the patentability. They come up with the code and they ask, "Iska sir hame patent chahiye." Of course, many times it's related to copyright as well. But then this is something, and of course, as I said, during the lockdown when everything went virtual, everyone was learning online that point of time. Like, children like Yash developed something, and so these kind of questions, again, it's a hypothetical thing, and you can try to answer based on your understanding of the domain. Finally, coming to the fact check now for paper 2, licensing part. Very important thing, because I'll tell you what happens actually while studying. For those who start studying from section 1 to 153 or whatever number of sections, I think it's 163, sorry. Therein, initially, when you start with, you are very focused. You also have, I would say that energy actually to go through the entire sections, read it carefully and all. The things are easy actually when you think of section 3, section 4 to start with. As we move ahead, tempo kam ho raha hai, energy kam ho rahi hai, and complexity बढ़ रही है. And honestly, as a patent practitioner, if you give me a project with respect to patentability, patent drafting, prosecution, very happy to do that actually. But the moment it comes for licensing, let me tell you something which is, I would say, at the other end of the IP ecosystem. This is where you need to think, or I would say focus on, because all these things, like since 2000 to 2018, the difficulty level has been increasing. Unorthodox questions have been asked actually, and the pattern as well is completely unorthodox as far as the patent digital exam, especially the paper 2 is concerned. So herein, I believe licensing is the area which has been completely neglected. Unfortunately, in India, licensing has been very much neglected. But then nowadays, the focus is also coming to these parts, licensing kind of thing. In that, what is licensing? What do you mean by a FRAND? There is a term called FRAND, which is specific for telecom sector. What is its meaning actually? How are patent licensing agreements drafted? how are they actually executed, what are the terms and conditions in that. One section 140 of the Indian Patent Act specifically, which is about the patent and competition law, and of course the compulsory licensing part as well. Also, I'm happy to inform you here that uh, we would be having a session on IPR license, sorry, patent licensing and commercialization on, I would say it's scheduled for 20th 20th of March, exactly 15 days from now, wherein we'll be discussing all these things related to licensing, FRAND, commercialization, the licensing agreement, the factors, the competition law, and compulsory licensing as well. We would have a like a female guest, and she would be actually discussing. She's an expert in licensing actually, so she would be discussing all these things in detail with all of us, and of course she would share some of her own, I would say, the experiences as well, wherein she is involved into the licensing part as such. Now, so that's the fact check again for the paper 2. Question 7 now. Dr. Rama from Bangalore, Mr. Saurabh from Delhi, and Miss Polo from Kolkata develop a herbal combination product for the treatment of COVID-19. They wish to file a patent for the same. You have to answer, like, advise them on appropriate office to file the patent in India. They want to file as a joint applicants, as in inventors. Patentability, considering the invention. Any studies required to be conducted to facilitate the grant of patent in the Indian context, and any other formalities required in this particular question. So this is my 7th hypothetical question to all of you to answer, which would give you some clarity about just to how to write, how to think basically. Okay, so this is my question number 7 to all of you. Again, when we think of paper 2, basically, of course, I tried to cover a lot of fact checks, but then I think that's what I have for the fact checks. But then I have an interesting chart here to show you, which is not from the situational based questions, but which is from the patent drafting part actually. And I thought, to have an opportunity to discuss it here in front of you, especially for the drafting purpose, patent drafting kind of questions actually. And let me just share you that chart here. If you can see here, what I have done is I have collated all the questions since 2000 to 2018 about the patent draft, and I have trifurcated them into 3 separate things: product or mechanical device, second is chemistry, and third is composition. Now, if you look at this entire chart, as I said, none of the examples are repeated ever, as well as you would see one common thing in all these is the mechanical device or the product part basically, since 2000 to 2018 actually. So drafting a mechanical device or a product, is understanding that is very essential for you. If you are from, so this is something which is for every one of you, each one of you rather. And if you look at the examples, these are not very complex kind of inventions or devices. We have some devices which are as simple as toothbrush, hair transplant device. Some of them we have already discussed in our class. Then we have this garden sprinkler or liquid connection apparatus. There are a lot of like this. Now, anyone can do this for sure if you have got a bit of understanding of the domain or a bit of practice as well. Second part is chemistry, and let me tell you something. Anyone except chemist feels it really difficult to draft a chemistry application actually. Even I come from pharma side. I have learned chemistry for long, but then if you tell me to draft a chemistry application, I can't do that effectively, or like, it becomes very difficult for me. But then fortunately, I would say this, of course, there are no set rules, but if you look at the trends, the last question on chemistry was asked in December 2008. Thereafter, we have a lot of questions on the composition part. I was speaking to one of the students, and she mentioned that in composition, it is very, for her, it is very difficult to actually, like, write the claims specifically for the composition. But I would suggest you try for composition as well as the mechanical device. Anyway, you can't learn the chemistry in few months or weeks, or I would say years as well at times, while as far as the drafting part is concerned. So if you focus on these two, the devices part, the product mechanical device, and the composition part, it's something really helpful for you. Now, for those who are from chemistry, at times it becomes, like, I would say, difficult to understand the other technologies actually. But then if you're lucky enough, actually, when the chemistry people are lucky, everyone else is unlucky, because chemistry ka agar invention aa gaya, only chemistry people can generally solve it, unless it's a process basically. But otherwise, product ka and composition ka jo inventions hai, we have as simple as the shoe polish composition, contact lens, pharma wale puche gaye, fertilizer, head conditioner, herbal products. A lot of questions are asked from the composition side actually. So you have got the feel about the entire way it is happening. But as I said, no set rules. It may happen that the questions are getting repeated, or like, you would have suddenly a chemistry question answer. But look at the trends, just try to, because see, I may be biased, I may be completely biased, because I don't have to appear for the patent agent exam eventually, right? Last question for all of you. The hypothetical questions, extremely sorry. Yeah. The last question for all of you is, we have Aman, Mr. Aman, Dipali, his wife, and a friend Deepak. They file a patent application physically in February 2020. They have filed it physically. They intended to file the complete patent application within due time. However, before the studies are completed, Mr. Raman dies due to COVID-19 infection in December 2020. The studies are completed in the month of January 21. Of course, unfortunately, we went through this, I would say, horrendous time in last 2 years. We lost a lot of our friends, our closed one, I would say, and like, but then how these things have been taken care at the patent office. So it would always be like pre-COVID and post-COVID, how during COVID time the things were settled actually. So the studies are completed in the month of January 21. Now, Mr. Raman is no more. Dipali and Deepak decide to file the complete application now. They wish to go for electronic filing. They are also concerned whether Aman's name should be removed or not. First question is, can they file the application electronically? Advise them on various forms and fees required for filing of the complete application. Also advise them on how to remove the name of Mr. Raman from the inventors list, if at all they wish to remove. So one of the inventors, unfortunately, before filing of the complete application, is no more. In that case, how are you going to resolve this actually? So this is my 8th question to all of you. Now, just to let you know the terms and conditions. So this is all I have done with my session. The terms and conditions for this: submit your answers in Word file or a scanned format after writing on a paper. we reserve the right to deny any entry based on if it is copied or based on any conflict of interest, basically. Single entry per candidate is allowed, and we'll be announcing the winners on or before 20th of March. 20th of March is your last date actually to provide the details. Just let me quickly go through, repeat the questions that I have. This was the first question, number 1, which was about Dr. Bhaskar Banerjee, Jadoo and lymphosarcoma of the intestine, hypothetical case. Then I have this question number 2, Dr. Alok, which is who has missed the deadline for PCT. How are you going to? So you can take the screenshots, or as I said, we'll be sharing this via LinkedIn and the Instagram platform as such. This is question number 2 for you. Question number 3 for you, Vedehi. This is about CLI, actually compulsory licensing at the Indian Patent Office, and there are some sub questions for that. Question number 4, Monica, European entrepreneur, and Mr. Hitesh, they want to. This is about licensing again, and how are you going to resolve your concern, basically. Next question. Vijay sends flowers and gift to friend in Delhi, and you have to decide whether that action is right or not. Honestly speaking, sending flowers and gift should always be a right action, but we have to think here in the context of, I would say, Indian Patent Act, the enforcement, or the e-commerce website, the patent infringement. Now, question 6. Yash, a school child, develop a software, and his elder sister, BTech graduate, BTech student, I would say, or a graduate, develop some kind of hardware, helps her actually. And their mom, who's a chemist, they develop the product. So you need to actually answer this particular question. Next, question 7. Let me go. Dr. Rama from Bangalore, Saurabh from Delhi, and Polo from Kolkata. Come up with herbal combination product. You have to give their patentability and the other details. Last question. Aman, Dipali, Deepak, file a provisional. Aman dies due to COVID-19 infection, and there is a scenario wherein we have to how are you going to resolve this particular question actually? Yeah. So I have done with this. So I got 2 questions from Rashmita here, Rashmita Sahu. Question 1 once again. Let me go to question 1, Rashmita, for you. This is the one. You can take a screenshot. As I said, just follow us on the LinkedIn or Instagram. You will get these questions right there as well. And you have to solve all 8 questions. You don't have to solve any 5 out of 8. You have to solve 8 questions to be eligible for these what we are providing as a video lectures, ebook, and our mock test series for patent agent exam preparation. So I'm done with my session. Thank you so much for joining in specifically on this, I would say, Sunday morning. I wish you a very happy Sunday. Have a great day ahead, and looking forward to have your answers. I hope this session would be useful for all of you. If it doesn't, still don't get disheartened. We have a lot of things coming up for you, as well as don't get disheartened if you or don't get panicked basically if you're not in a position to answer any of these questions, because if you're not finished the syllabus, you may not be in a position to answer. But if you have finished the syllabus, just check what is that one thing wherein you are lacking actually. So thank you once again, and have a great day. Bye.